this is Pierre Poilievre, this video. He's slamming Trudeau for doing nothing for 2 years after learning a Chinese diplomat was threatening a Conservative MP's family member. So go back a little. Michael Chong, he's, I guess, ethnically Chinese. He's got family in Hong Kong. And the Chinese government, sounds like, they were threatening his family in Hong Kong. Trudeau knew about it and didn't do anything. Now, dial back to, you know what? I'm going to keep my comments to myself. Let's watch the video first. But this is outrageous. Can you imagine that, like, the Chinese government is threatening family members of Canadian Conservative, ethnically Chinese MPs, and the Prime Minister knows, he's been informed, and he does absolutely nothing. Let's watch this video, and then I've got some historical comments about the last time this sort of stuff happened and when we had a good Prime Minister, what happened because of it.
Indeed.
Go ahead.
Can't vote in the interests of Canada while their family members are threatened as consequence of those votes. It is unacceptable, as the Prime Minister said, which is why it's so strange that he accepted it. His government produced a briefing note which exposed these threats to the MP's family 2 years ago. And yet the diplomat that worked to punish a Canadian MP's family is still in Canada when the Prime Minister could have expelled him. Why didn't he expel this diplomat?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
It is absolutely unacceptable for any Canadian to be subject to intimidation via foreign power, particularly threats against family and against families of members of Parliament. That's why, as the reports came out this morning, I immediately asked officials to follow up on these reports and to get to the bottom of this. I also asked for outreach both on the political and the official side to the member in question. We are going to continue to make sure this is taken extremely seriously.
Well, that's just false. He didn't immediately take action. He took action after the media found out about it.
That's right.
His government has known that a Canadian MP had his family threatened because that MP voted for human rights in the House of Commons. He knew about that for 2 years. He did exactly nothing. Furthermore, the same diplomat that orchestrated these threats against the MP's family still works in the Toronto consulate at Beijing, even though the Prime Minister has the power to expel him. Will he expel him today?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
As the reports were made public this morning, we followed up immediately with top officials to get all the information on this file, on what happened, on who was informed and who was not informed, to make sure that we are following up in an appropriate way. This is absolutely unacceptable, and it shouldn't have happened.
Well, Sheila, blackface has that end part right. Absolutely unacceptable and should never have happened. So blackface, why did it happen?
Well, and that's the thing. He's known for 2 years. And as Poilievre points out, is this happening to Liberal MPs? He says, you know, how can somebody vote in the best interest of Canada in the House of Commons if it puts the safety of their family elsewhere at risk? So, you know, Michael Chong, to his credit, was voting against, you know, China. He was renouncing China and their treatment of ethnic and religious minorities there.
Correct.
Knowing full well it could put his family in jeopardy, but he was voting with his conscience. But as I hinted before we got into this video, there is some precedent for a Prime Minister doing the right thing here and not waiting for it to break in the media before you pretend to act. We're gathering information. You had the information 2 years ago, you big, dumb idiot. You didn't do anything, Trudeau. Harper, way back, I think it was in 2012, if I recall correctly, he blindsided everybody because he got the information and then immediately acted. And then the media is reporting, like, what the heck is going on here? We didn't know any of this was happening. What Harper did was, I think it was CSIS told him, out of the embassy in Ottawa, and out of the embassy, the Canadian embassy in Iran, they were bullying the families and intimidating the families of Iranian expats and Iranian defectors here in Canada. So they flee the regime, they come here to live in peace and harmony and human rights. And then the tentacles of the regime are working out of the consulates and the embassies to continue to intimidate the families of people who fled the regime and who are critical of the regime. And so it was happening both ways. So they're intimidating them here and then intimidating the families there. So what Harper did, as soon as he got this information, closed the consulate, closed the embassies here, kicked all the Iranian diplomats out, threw them out, and then closed the Canadian embassy there and said, there is no way that we are going to facilitate access to people whom we've promised can live in peace and harmony and human rights here. That's the right thing to do. And now, under the Liberals, we've got Iranian IRGC guys working out at the gym. Not getting expelled. Like, that's how quickly the turnaround was from acting to protect expats here and defectors here to just having the IRGC just working out in the local gym.
Well, Sheila, I'm sorry, but when you have a Liberal MP such as Majid Johari, the MP for Richmond Hill, who is pro-regime, if you can imagine, that's what you get, okay? He allows this murderous trash to come into our country because it's good for Majid Johari. It's not good for his constituents. Richmond Hill, the city, has, I think it's a 14% demographic of Persians. I live in Richmond Hill, full disclosure. Never had a problem with any of them. I patronize their businesses, go to their restaurants, except for the guy who's the member of parliament who is pro-regime, even now with the life, liberty, and woman movement going. Unbelievable. What a disgrace. There he is right there. I'm scrumming him in at Hillcrest Mall a couple of years ago. Of course, he didn't answer the questions, and de rigueur, he phoned the police, and we got frog marched out. There's your, and the thing I want to bring up, Sheila, forget about Johari, but I would be as animated and outraged if this treatment happened to a Liberal, an NDP, a Green, an Independent, if we had a Marxist-Leninist MP in the House. This is apolitical in my viewpoint.
Yeah.
Like, now you've crossed the line. You've gone after one of us, but leave it to blackface to go from the two Michaels, Kovrig and Spavor, to the three Michaels. Now you can add Chong to that as a yet again another international disgrace. And why, right now as we're speaking, why isn't there an RCMP delegation at the Chinese consulate on Bedford Road in Toronto? We've been there. Yeah. And a very nasty place. Iron Gates, a really foul security guard. That's beside the point. Why aren't they frog marching this guy to the next flight out of Pearson to Beijing? Oh, then again, maybe there's some PSAC or CRA strikers gumming up the works at Pearson. Hey, guys, come on, give us a break, right? Pearson doesn't even work under normal conditions, okay?
Right. Who could tell if there's disruption down there? But the only guy in that conversation of the video we just saw expressing concern for the ability of all MPs to do work without intimidation and vote in the best interest of Canada, whatever their conscience tells them is the best interest of Canada, whatever is the best interest of Canada in a Liberal mind, an NDP mind, a Conservative mind. The only guy expressing that concern was Pierre Poilievre. Yeah. He's the guy who's all of a sudden now concerned about the Liberal MPs who could be subject to intimidation. Just going back to when Harper tossed the Iranian diplomats out, it literally caught everybody off guard. If you go back and read the earliest media reports of that, it says many political commentators were puzzled by the abrupt decision, as there have been no recent public developments in the Iranian-Canadian relationship that seemingly could have motivated the move. So, which means that it wasn't a news report that motivated Harper to do the right thing and protect Canadian citizens. It was information he was acting on from CSIS to protect the sovereignty and safety of Canadians and Canada. But Trudeau, 2 years worth of this information just on Michael Chong that he knew. But once again, Trudeau's only real ideology is power. That's all he wants. He doesn't care how he gets it, how he maintains it, or what sort of levels of corruption that he has to achieve to hang on to it. He is willing to allow a Canadian MP's family to be intimidated as long as the Chinese help him win elections.
And you know, Sheila, blackface is such a liar. I'm reading a news report in the Toronto Sun today on this issue and the related issue of Chinese police stations operating in our Great Dominion. And it says that the Trudeau government says this has ended, meaning the Chinese police stations. No, it hasn't, you big blackface liar, you. Just on Friday, I think the report's going up maybe later today, ace shooter Maurizio and I went to a demonstration in Markham where one of the edifices that is allegedly housing Chinese police. And I can tell you, because I've reached out to the RCMP personally on this, the last communication I had with them goes back to September, Sheila, where they said, the matter is under investigation and there will be no further comment. Wait a minute. So who am I supposed to believe? The RCMP saying the matter's under investigation, or blackface saying, no, we've shut down those police stations? Yeah, I think I'm going with the RCMP. And again, why is this under investigation? Last month in New York, we had 2 individuals arrested by the police there for this. I believe there was an action in Houston too. But here, it's the 3 monkeys, see, speak, and hear no evil, apparently, when it comes to blackface's beloved China, the nation that he so has admiration for in his heart.
Right. Because their basic tyranny, dictatorship, allows them to turn on a dime. Yeah, you can't do that when you don't have to worry about human rights.
And look at where Canada is going to, right?
Yeah, every day is the Emergencies Act when you're in China. That's a clip from something we call Rebel News Daily. It's our daily live stream hosted by my friend David Menzies, but the show also includes a rotating cast of hosts and special guests, including me. It's a great way for us to talk about the news of the day as the news is happening in an unscripted fashion, and it's an awesome way for you to interact with us as well. We stream every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Mountain, wherever you find Rebel News. See you there.